Please welcome Richard Dean Anderson.
In 2013, Richard Dean Anderson shocked Hollywood by walking away from $30 million worth of projects. He was only 63. His career was still hot. Studios were begging him to come back, but Anderson had a secret. Sources close to Anderson reveal he's been carrying a dark secret about the industry for decades. Something that happened during his MacGyver years traumatized him so deeply, he's never spoken about it publicly. What Hollywood insiders did to him explains why he chose silence over stardom. Richard Dean Anderson was born on a freezing day in January 1950. His mother had just delivered him in Dawson Creek, British Columbia. But within 3 days, they packed up the newborn and crossed into the United States. They settled in Minneapolis, Minnesota, where Richard would grow up as the eldest of 4 brothers. His father, Stuart, was more than a school teacher. He taught English and drama by day, but played jazz bass at night. His mother, Jocelyn, was a gifted artist who painted and sculpted. From the very beginning, Richard's world was filled with music, art, and stage lights. The walls of their home often echoed with jazz and the smell of paint. And as a little boy, he'd sit quietly in the back of high school theaters while his dad rehearsed plays. Once, he saw actors using Twinkies as birthday cake during a rehearsal, and it stuck with him. He decided that any job that came with free Twinkies was worth chasing. He grew up in Roseville, a suburb where his life revolved around 2 things: ice hockey and daydreams. He loved the sport so much it bordered on obsession. People called him a hockey nut, and he was good, really good. Stan Mikita, the hockey legend himself, even praised his skills. Richard dreamed of going pro, but at just 16, those dreams shattered. First, he broke one arm in a violent game collision. Then, just 3 weeks later, he broke the other. The second break was so brutal, it sent him to the hospital for 3 months and required surgery with pins and plates. Doctors warned he might lose movement forever. He was being scouted by real teams at the time. To have it all ripped away like that was more than just pain. It was identity loss. Hockey was who he was, and now it was gone. He spiraled into depression. The hospital stay felt endless, and the silence of not skating again cut deeper than the pain in his bones. But something unexpected began to grow in that quiet. He started paying more attention to his father's school plays. He joined drama clubs. He performed with casts still on his arms. Acting gave him something to hold on to while everything else had slipped away. And somewhere in the middle of those small productions, a fire lit that would never go out again. Richard's childhood wasn't easy. His family didn't have much. His father's paycheck barely covered the basics. Sometimes the music gigs helped. Sometimes they didn't. The 4 boys had to pitch in. Richard delivered newspapers. He knew what it meant to value every dollar. He also learned how to stretch what little he had, like the time he tried to bike from Minneapolis to Duluth when he was just 10 years old. That's a 100-mile journey. He didn't tell his parents the full plan. He just got on his bike and went. He made it halfway, 50 miles, before his small body gave up. He had to turn back. But it didn't feel like failure. Even at 10, he had the guts to try something that most adults wouldn't dare. By 17, his appetite for danger only grew. He took off on a cross-country bicycle ride. He traveled over 5,600 miles, from Minnesota through Canada all the way to Alaska. He did the final 33 days completely alone. No car following him, no team, just him, a bike, and a brutal mix of mountains and weather. Earlier that year, he had been caught in a terrifying snowstorm in Taos, New Mexico, where 105-mile-per-hour winds stranded him in whiteout conditions. He survived. And somehow, he kept pushing for more. He learned how to scuba dive. He learned how to ride motorcycles. He bought 4 of them, including a Harley Davidson. He would jump school roofs for fun. He'd crash dirt bikes and get up grinning. He once dove off a board, hit his head, and needed stitches. It didn't slow him down. Once, during one of Minnesota's bitter winters, he decided he wanted to set a world record by living in an igloo. He built it himself. He stayed in it for 3 days. He nearly froze to death. But to him, that was just another challenge. His teenage years were full of wild stunts and close calls. He wasn't afraid of pain. He wasn't afraid of failure. What scared him was standing still. Richard Dean Anderson took a huge risk in 1976 when he left Ohio University and moved to Los Angeles. He had no guarantee of success, just a dream and a lot of uncertainty. To survive, he did whatever it took. One of his strangest jobs was working with whales at a marine show. He needed the money to pay rent, but that job also taught him how to handle pressure and stay calm in front of big audiences. Before this, he had already sharpened his acting in New York City's theater scene. Every odd job, every small stage, was preparing him for something bigger. That same year, in spring 1976, everything changed. He landed his first big break on General Hospital. He was cast as Dr. Jeff Weber and stayed on the show for 5 years, appearing in 6 to 11 episodes. This happened just as the show expanded from 30 minutes to 45 on July 26, 1976. The ratings started climbing fast. By 1979, General Hospital became the #1 daytime drama in America. Anderson became part of that wave. He acted alongside stars like Denise Alexander and Stuart Damon. And by the time he left in 1981, he wasn't just another soap actor. He was someone producers had started noticing. From there, he didn't slow down. Right after General Hospital, he popped up in The Facts of Life in 1981 and played Brian Parker. Then he appeared on Today's FBI as Andy McFay, and even showed up on The Love Boat in 1982 as Carter Randall. These weren't random jobs. Each one was carefully chosen. He was proving that he could do more than just soap dramas. He wanted to show range, and he did. He worked with different crews, different directors, building contacts and gaining experience. But not everything worked out. Between 1982 and 1984, he was given the lead in 2 CBS shows. First was 7 Brides for 7 Brothers, where he played Adam McFadden for 22 episodes. Right after that came Emerald Point NAS, where he was Lieutenant Simon Adams for another 22 episodes. Both shows got canceled after just 1 season. 2 big chances, 2 big failures. For a rising actor, that kind of back-to-back flop can kill a career. But Anderson kept going. He watched, he learned, he paid attention to what audiences responded to. And then, in 1985, the role that would change everything came knocking. When he auditioned for MacGyver in 1985, something strange happened. He showed up wearing his glasses. He didn't take them off. He wasn't trying to look cool or impress anyone. That honest, unpolished moment impressed the producers. They weren't looking for a typical action star. They wanted someone real. Anderson got the part. He had no stunt training, but he convinced them to let him do most of his own stunts anyway. 70% of the dangerous scenes you see, that was him. He believed in doing things himself. He hated guns in real life, and so did MacGyver. That match was perfect. The show exploded. From 1985 to 1992, MacGyver aired 139 episodes. Anderson went from soap actor to television legend. By 1990, he was earning $1 million per season. But the real money came when he negotiated producer credits in the later seasons. That meant he earned a cut from syndication, too. MacGyver was everywhere. Parents loved the show because it was smart and avoided violence. Kids loved it because it made science look cool. Even the word MacGyver became a verb. You didn't fix something. You MacGyvered it. In 2006, 14 years after the show ended, He brought the character back in a Super Bowl ad. That's how deep the character had sunk into pop culture. But success came at a price. In 1987, while filming a running scene across uneven ground, Anderson stepped into a hidden hole. He didn't just twist his ankle. His disc exploded. The pain shot down his leg. He couldn't walk properly, but he didn't stop. For a year and a half, he filmed episodes in terrible pain, swallowing painkillers and refusing help. He didn't want stunt doubles. He didn't want to show weakness, but the damage was real. Doctors warned him of permanent nerve issues. He finally gave in and had surgery, but the pain never fully went away. He carried it with him for the rest of the show. One of the most iconic moments in MacGyver's first episode came from Anderson's own childhood. As a kid, he loved taking things apart and building new inventions. That habit turned into the famous paperclip bomb. It wasn't in the original script. It came straight from Anderson's memories. He had actually built things like that growing up. When the pilot aired, it pulled in a 10.9 rating. That meant nearly 20 million people tuned in. The network was disappointed at first, but that one scene became legendary. Writers started going to Anderson for advice on what kinds of inventions MacGyver could build. He didn't just play the role, he shaped it. By 1991, the pressure of the show had caught up with him. He collapsed on set. He fainted from stress, dehydration, and total exhaustion. Doctors said his body was functioning at just 20%. He was completely burned out. He asked the studio to let him go. They said no. If he quit, they'd sue him for $18 million. That number wasn't a bluff. He was trapped, forced to keep filming, even though his health was falling apart. He later admitted the show had taken over his entire life. There was nothing left outside of it. When Richard Dean Anderson agreed to star in Stargate SG-1 back in 1997, he shocked everyone at MGM by asking for something no actor had ever asked before. He didn't want a full-time role. He demanded a 3-day work week. That meant Friday to Sunday would be completely off-limits, all so he could be home with his newborn daughter, Wiley. The producers couldn't believe it. Rearranging an entire show's filming schedule around one actor seemed insane. But Anderson was coming off MacGyver, one of the biggest shows of the late 80s and early 90s, and his name alone could draw millions of viewers. So MGM caved. He got the deal. He earned $100,000 per episode while only working part-time. And that part-time deal somehow lasted all 10 seasons. Anderson ended up appearing in 173 episodes out of 214. That 3-day contract became famous in Hollywood. Other actors started asking for the same thing, but no one else got away with it quite like he did. By 2001, during the show's 5th season, things got even crazier. Anderson's pay had doubled. He was now earning $200,000 per episode. That came out to $4.4 million per season, and he was still only working 3 days a week. Stargate SG-1 had become sci-fi's crown jewel, pulling in around 2.5 million viewers every week. Internationally, the show was bringing in over $100 million in syndication deals. Fan conventions would pay Anderson and Amanda tapping up to $50,000 just to appear together for a panel. And the fans loved him, especially because so many of his lines weren't even in the script. A lot of O'Neill's sarcastic one-liners were things Anderson just made up on set. Over 10 seasons, he earned more than $30 million just from the show itself. That didn't even count the reruns and residuals, which still bring in money today. But not everything was smooth. In 2004, something happened that changed everything for Anderson. While filming Season 8, he injured his knee during what should have been a simple running scene. But his foot landed wrong. His knee twisted. The ligaments tore. The pain was instant. He needed surgery and months of rehab. The doctors told him straight, keep doing physical scenes, and he could lose his ability to walk properly. Instead of writing him off the show, the producers made a clever change. They promoted Colonel O'Neill to Brigadier General, which meant he'd mostly stay behind a desk. His action scenes were cut down by more than half. The fans noticed he wasn't as active, but they didn't know why. The truth didn't come out until years later. Even now, Anderson still walks with a slight limp. The total cost of treatment crossed $200,000, but most of it was covered by insurance. Still, it was a turning point. He never took another physically demanding role again. That same year, Anderson directed one of the most unforgettable episodes of the show. Double Jeopardy in Season 4. It was supposed to be a fun sci-fi action episode, but Anderson brought something unexpected to it: hockey. He had played amateur hockey for 15 years, and he used those moves to choreograph the alien battle scenes. He studied NHL games, watched tapes, and sketched out alien fights like they were power plays on ice. It got intense. The episode went $300,000 over budget because he kept demanding retakes. One fight scene took 47 takes. The stunt coordinator eventually quit, but Anderson kept pushing. He was obsessed. He even practiced fight moves during lunch with the stunt team. When the episode aired, it broke records: 3.1 million viewers. It became the highest-rated episode of the season. But even as the show was hitting its peak, Anderson was falling apart behind the scenes. In 2001, the same year he won the Saturn Award for Best Actor, he was secretly dealing with a severe case of burnout. His 3-day work week might have sounded easy, but each of those days started at 5 in the morning and didn't end until 7 at night. He had no breaks. The pressure was crushing. He told co-star Michael Shanks it was destroying his health. He couldn't sleep without pills. He was drinking 8 to 10 cups of coffee every day just to stay awake. During his award speech, fans saw a cheerful actor. But backstage, makeup artists had to cover the dark circles under his eyes. He was meeting with a therapist twice a week and was seriously thinking about quitting the show after Season 7. The breaking point came when he literally fell asleep during a live interview. That's when MGM stepped in. They hired him a personal assistant and cut his publicity work in half. Only Amanda Tapping knew about the therapy sessions at the time. Anderson had been carrying all that pressure for years, but he wasn't afraid to take risks with his career either. Back in 1992, he did something completely unexpected. He starred in a CBS thriller called Through the Eyes of a Killer. It aired on December 15th and stunned fans who were used to seeing him as the hero. This time, he played Ray Bolano, a contractor who turns into a stalker after a short affair with a woman named Lori. When she tries to end things, he refuses to let go. The movie was dark, disturbing, and a huge shock to viewers who only knew him as the clever, kind MacGyver. It was based on a short story called The Master Builder and filmed in Vancouver with a 94-minute runtime. The movie didn't break records. It got a 5.9 rating from a few hundred IMDb voters. But it proved Anderson wasn't afraid to step out of his comfort zone and show a much darker side of himself. That same fearless attitude showed up again in 2006, but this time it was pure comedy. Anderson appeared in the Simpsons episode Kiss Kiss, Bang Bangalore, which aired on April 9th. The episode was written by Dan Castellaneta, the same actor who voiced Homer, and had actually guest-starred on Stargate SG-1 the year before. In the episode, Anderson plays himself and runs into MacGyver-obsessed Patty and Selma. What shocks them, and the audience, is that Anderson says he never liked playing MacGyver and only did it for the paycheck. They kidnap him, but he escapes using a contact lens to focus sunlight and burn through his ropes. Classic MacGyver. Then it gets even funnier. Anderson becomes obsessed with escape stunts and asks Patty and Selma to keep kidnapping him with new challenges. It was brilliant. He made fun of himself, leaned into the absurdity, and fans loved it. It showed a side of him most people never expected. Richard Dean Anderson had always been known as the man who wouldn't settle down. But in 1992, something changed. News broke that he was dating Katharina Witt, the famous figure skater from East Germany. She wasn't just any athlete. She was a four-time world champion, and at the time, one of the biggest names in the world. Their relationship didn't even last 2 months. From March to April 1992, they were seen together, talked about endlessly in the press, and then, suddenly, it was over. The breakup hit when Witt was still deep in competition, and Anderson admitted the pressure from all the attention became too much to handle. People thought maybe this time he'd finally found someone to stay with. But just as quickly as it started, it ended. Before that, his most stable romance happened in the 1980s. From 1983 to 1986, he was with actress Cella Ward. They met on the set of a show where they played siblings. Off-screen, things turned romantic almost immediately. Cella had just moved to LA, and they started living just steps apart in West Hollywood. Even though they weren't married, they lived like a real couple. But his job on MacGyver meant 15-hour workdays, and they became what he called a weekend couple. Anderson later said it was a beautiful relationship, but marriage scared him. After they ended things, he dated Terry Hatcher from April 1991 to February 1993. It was almost 2 years, but once again, no long-term commitment. Both relationships ended on good terms. Still, everyone in Hollywood knew. Anderson just didn't marry. Then came someone who truly changed the rhythm of his life. Her name was April Prose. She was a wardrobe stylist, not a celebrity. In 1996, a mutual friend introduced them, and she didn't expect much. She thought Anderson was just another actor who would never commit. But after just one date, April called her mom and said she'd met the man she was going to spend her life with. They stayed together for 7 years. On August 2, 1998, their daughter Wiley Quinn Anna Rose Anderson was born. Anderson was 48. He had never married, but now he was a father. He didn't marry April either, but they built a life together. When they eventually separated in 2003, there was no bitterness. Anderson said his only focus now was his daughter. But years before Wiley was born, one short romance nearly changed everything for the worse. In 1995, Anderson started seeing Lara Flynn Boyle. She was 25 and one of the most talked-about stars in Hollywood, thanks to her role in Twin Peaks. The media didn't let them breathe. Their 21-year age difference became a constant topic. Tabloids followed them everywhere. Anderson, who had managed to stay private for most of his career, said it felt soul-crushing. The relationship ended fast, but the headlines didn't. He said later that this was when he truly realized how toxic the spotlight could be. After that, he began retreating from public life. In 1997, when he started filming Stargate SG-1, he made a major decision. Instead of staying in LA, he moved to Vancouver. He wanted space. He wanted quiet. He wanted privacy. 8 months a year, he stayed in Canada, avoiding red carpets and Hollywood parties. He hiked. He played hockey with friends. And when Wiley was born in 1998, that peace became even more important. His Vancouver home became a sanctuary, a place to just be a dad. Wiley's birth wasn't peaceful, though. It was terrifying. She didn't breathe when she came out. She didn't cry. Doctors rushed to save her, and Anderson stood frozen, trying to stay strong. When they finally said she was okay, he broke down in tears. Later, he said it was the most overwhelming moment of his life. It completely changed him. From that day on, everything revolved around her. After his split from April in 2003, Anderson became a full-time single father. He didn't complain. He embraced it. He took over all parenting duties, diapers, feedings, everything. Even in his late 60s, by 2017, he was still driving Wiley to school every morning and picking her up afterward. He gave up acting. He chose quiet days on his Malibu farm over sets and scripts. He said even waking up at 3 a.m. to check on her was never a burden. She never cried without a reason, he said. Becoming a father at 48 hit him harder than he ever expected. During Wiley's first year, he cried almost every single day. When April first told him she was pregnant, he tried to stay calm. But soon he was reading every parenting book he could find. He even joined yoga prep classes for the delivery. He couldn't stop staring at his daughter. The man who had once been called Hollywood's most desirable bachelor had become a man who stayed home, ignored phone calls, and just held his child. In 2013, he made a choice that shocked everyone. He quit. He walked away from the industry completely. At 63, with Stargate behind him and MacGyver long gone, he decided he would no longer chase scripts or money. His daughter was now 15, and he didn't want to miss a second. His body was tired. The stunts had taken a toll. But more than that, he didn't want to repeat old mistakes. People like Terry Hatcher had once told him he was never home. He didn't want his daughter to say the same. Between 2023 and 2025, he turned down more than $23 million. Netflix offered him $15 million for a documentary about his life. He said no. He didn't want his life turned into content. Disney offered $5 million for 5 Stargate episodes. Paramount offered $3 million for a single MacGyver reboot episode. He didn't even reply. A news outlet wrote, "No actor in Hollywood history has turned down more money, more offers, and more fame than Richard Dean Anderson." And yet, he didn't regret it. The reboot wasn't true to what MacGyver really was, he said. He wasn't interested in fake nostalgia. He only said yes to things he believed in, and those were becoming fewer and fewer. In May 2025, at a convention in London, Anderson shocked fans again. He didn't talk about fame. He didn't praise the industry. He called Hollywood a soul-killing machine. He said it no longer cared about people, only money. Fans were stunned. Anderson had always been polite and charming in public, but this time he didn't hold back. He had replaced Amanda Tapping last minute and ended up becoming the emotional center of the event. Tickets sold out. People cried. He wasn't selling stardom anymore. He was telling the truth. Now at 75, Anderson lives a quiet life in Malibu. He has an estimated net worth of $30 million. His home alone is worth $9.5 million, and he pays $112,000 a year in property tax. But he's not focused on luxury. He works with environmental groups. He serves on the advisory board of the Sea Shepherd Conservation Society and helps fight illegal whaling. He supports youth programs. He attends only 3 fan events a year. His life is about peace now. He didn't retire to escape. He retired to be present. He chose silence over noise, real life over the spotlight, and above all, he chose to be a father over being famous.